shave my head today. So I'm sorry about that. I'm glad to see that at least Barry's still in uniform. I don't know about the rest of you guys. Well, I'm glad to be here in a meeting of Vietnam veterans against the war. I remember back when I joined VVAW, I came back from Vietnam and I was shot up and I was laying in a hospital in Camp Zama, Japan. And I remember I was sitting there trying to put all this shit together, figuring out how I ended up in this position and what it all meant. And I found a book called The New Legions by Donald Duncan in the Post Library and read it and sort of put everything in a political context for me, because before that I just looked at it like, you know, a bunch of old guys got a bunch of young guys shooting each other, you know, and what's the point of it? And then that gave me a political context. So I made a decision at that point to come back and to oppose the war in Vietnam, because I knew that my brother and my friends and every generation, year after year, they was going to keep taking the guys that couldn't afford to go to college and send them off to fight and die, you know. And so I became active in the GI movement. And when I got out of the service, I stayed in Fort Hood working with GIs at the base, at the GI Coffee House, the Oleo Strut that used to be there. And it was back in 1971 that I first became aware of Vietnam Vets Against the War. I actually brought the fatigue press from when we met with him. And it's dated June 1971, and it refers to a meeting we had in May of 1971, which means it's right after Dewey Camp. That's what it is. And at that time, our objectives were laid out there. A few of the demands of the platform are an end to the war in Vietnam, to stop military tactics which dehumanize soldiers and civilians, to stop the use of racist tactics in the military, the guarantee of all rights of citizens to active duty personnel, for the legislation to provide proper medical care, education, and vocational training, and housing benefits regardless of rank, type of discharge, or time in service. And that was like what our program was at the beginning. And a lot of those issues, well, the war in Vietnam might be over, but the war moved to another country. And a lot of those issues still have the same resonance they had then. We made some victories in the course of that struggle, but I think we found that we're dealing with a systemic problem here. And I remember back then VVAW became the umbrella group where all these GI radicals and all these guys were fed up, and that was what everyone came together. And VVAW was like in the right place at the right time and turned into the right force to do the right thing for the right reasons. And it's important that we maintain the legacy of VVAW forever. As long as any one of us is walking, we have a duty to maintain the legacy of VVAW. We have a good website. The paper plays an important role. I think you all read the last paper and seen that. That's gotten a very good response, because we're saying something that you don't read elsewhere. We're saying important stuff. And maintaining this legacy is something that we can't let go, because see, they want us to forget. They don't want us to forget. They don't care about us. They want everyone else to forget just what did happen. And like, we're the ones who can tell them what did happen. And so I think that as long as that the people being here, coming together and doing that, I hope you go back from here more committed to doing this as an organization, because this organization will remain necessary as long as we're walking. And I think the importance of the legacy of Vietnam is especially urgent today after September 11, 2001, when everything got turned. You know, like they do say, nothing's the same since September 11th. Well, I got to tell you, that's a bunch of bullshit. A lot of things are the same. The government still lies to you, but a lot of people wanted to forget that for a while, you know, because they didn't know what else to think. You know, the government wants to send you off to fight for causes that are crap, you know, and then they don't want to worry about you when you come home, but they don't want you to think that. You know what I learned about over the last period from seeing all these wars that we've had, the Gulf War, Panama, Central America, Kosovo, Bosnia? I learned that if they have one war, that's the best way the guys from the last war can get some justice. Because they screw you up when you go fight in a war, and then they wait until the next one comes along, and then they pass some legislation. In 1990, they passed the Agent Orange Act just before the Gulf War. Now they just passed legislation granting partial coverage to Gulf War veterans if they have several conditions, undiagnosed conditions. That's the trick bag they got us in. The sad reality is veterans of the last war only get halfway justice when they start a new war, because they want to convince the next generation that we're not going to screw you like we did them. And then they want to tell us to go out there and wave a flag for them because we didn't get treated so bad and we're proud Americans. I don't know about you guys. I don't know about you folks, but to me, that is pissing on the grave of a lot of my brothers. That's how I look at it. That's like trying to take all the sacrifice, the people who died, the Vietnamese, the Americans, all the struggle we made, and to turn it into a mockery and turn it into empty rhetoric. And I don't think we can allow that to happen. I think that that's our mission, and I think that VVAW as an organization has to persevere because of that. And I think everyone here has to take that on as part of your responsibility, not just Barry or Joe or Jeff or Dave or whoever.